Today, we're doing cosine and secant graph. So, from the sine graph, which you should have watched first, it has a lot of the stuff that we already know. So, we know that from the project, we took a unit circle, we created it, we cut the string, and then we transformed it into the positive x-axis here by cutting it and opening it up, and that became the positive x-axis. Since the unit circle is full of angles, we know now that this one here now represents the angles, and the y values are now going to be the trig ratios, such as the square root of 2 over 2 or 1/2. But the main ones that we're going to do is the quadrantal angles, which is the 0, 90, 180, and 270. And they are going to represent the trig ratios. So this is how high it's going to go. It's going to go as high as 1 and as low as -1. And that makes sense because since we're doing the cosine, we're going to be representing the x value. So it's going to go from 1 to 0 to -1, back to 0, and then back to 1. So if we're going to graph it on the graph over here, that means that at 0 degrees, we are going to start at 1. So that means that at 0 degrees, it's going to be up here, and then it's going to go to 0, and then we are going then to go to -1, and then we're going to go back to 0, and then we're going to go back to 1. And so that's how we do it in the positive direction. So this is when we're going counterclockwise, which is what we did. We went counterclockwise this way. So that's the direction. That way is the positive direction. But now we're going to go in the negative direction to get -90. That means that in the unit circle, we're going in this direction. So now we're going in this way. So this means that we're still going to be at 0, we're still going to be at 1, and then at 90, we're going to go to 0. And then we're going to go down to -1, and then we're going to go up to 0, and then back up to 1. So again, we're going from 1 to 0 to -1, back to 0, and then back to 1. And so then if we connect the points, we know it's going to be a sinusoidal function that's going to keep repeating for on and on and on to infinity and beyond. It's just going to keep repeating up and down, up and down, up and down. And so now that we have that, that's what it looks like. And so we know that cosine is related to secant. So I know that cosine, if cosine is 0 over 1, then I know that the secant is the reciprocal, so it's going to be 1 over 0. Anytime we have 0 in the denominator, what we're going to get is going to be a vertical asymptote. So when the cosine of theta is going to be 0 over 1, the secant of theta is going to be a vertical asymptote. So how are we going to note that? We're going to, wherever have the x-intercepts, which is where our cosine is 0, we're going to then put in our vertical asymptote. So here is our vertical asymptotes there. Here are the vertical asymptotes going down there, and the vertical asymptotes going down that way. So because they're reciprocals, this one here is concave down, so now it's going to be concave up. This one here is the same thing, and this one goes up, up. This one goes down, down, and that one goes up, up. And so the blue one is the graph of the secant graph. The green one is the graph of the cosine graph. So anytime you want to draw a secant, you draw a cosine, and then you just flip it. And those are the other two graphs on there.